GoLoud.
Welcome back to the Weekly Roast. How's it going, guys? How the hell are you? How are your hearts? And of course, how are your heads? Guys, what's going on? How are you doing? I hope you're well. I hope you realise how grateful I am for all of your support with the podcast over the last few months. It's been truly amazing to behold. And guys, I've just had a meeting with Kieran before this show, and I'm just so excited about something that we have coming up. And I'm doing that thing where I'm not going to tell you what the thing is. But let's just say it's time for the podcast to evolve. It's time for me to mature. And there's a project coming up that I have truly never been as excited about something since the book. So, yeah, stay tuned. But listen, on another note, I would like to say that it's time, at least for today, to put to bed the toilet humour. It's time to collapse the sordid little souffle of bodily functions and fluids that has been the subject matter of the Weekly Roast over the last 2 weeks. Let's be honest, guys. It's gotten too filthy. It's gotten too foul. It's time to put something else in the oven. Let's turn our attention to people instead of the things that their bodies produce, okay? I think we're all in agreement with that. It's gotten very toilet humour heavy, and at the end of the day, it's funny, but there's a time and a place. So we're going to sub out the toilet humour today, and we will replace it with a good old-fashioned Willy, bum bum section. Now, guys, I am joined here by my milk-mad, guzzling baby, latched on to both nipples at one time with his tongue. Kieran, how are we, Kieran? Good morning, boy. Anyway, first up, guys, we're roasting stag parties, okay? Now, notwithstanding the avalanche of confusion that I found myself buried beneath whenever I asked people on Instagram to contribute their stories from stags, I will say this, okay? There is a huge difference. I'm not doing the sort of comedy of, Jesus, men are like this and women are like that, but there is a massive difference between the complaints that come in for a stag party versus the complaints that I've seen on Instagram about hens. With hen do's, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe Ciara didn't contribute the full €23 for the party bus, even though she wasn't able to come. Like, she's actually insufferable, like. Whereas lads are like, we lost the stripper at dawn. Frank filleted a Russian taxi driver. Do you know what I mean? 4 of the lads got divorced. Cian needs to find a new job. I think Damien is still in Prague. Like, the stag do, I hate stag do's. Let me just go out there and say that, okay? And I know I'll get ridiculed by those who like to ridicule, but I don't like stag do's. I hate them. The stag do for me is the fruit at the bottom of the Halloween bag. It's the wet food in the sink. It's the accidental barefoot in the bin juice of adult life, okay? The near constant threat to your earbuds in your 30s is the sound of getting added into yet another WhatsApp group, but this time in the name of Dino's final send-off or Barry's last hurrah. Do you know what I mean? Stag do's are up there with karaoke. They're only fun for the people involved in doing them. For everybody else in the vicinity, it's a complete and utter nightmare. Oh, do you want to go and see Sarah from HR? Absolutely butcher, I don't want to fall asleep by Aerosmith. No, I'd prefer to hand in my notice. Do you know? Oh, look, there's a work night out of people who work in tech sales singing We Are the Champions. Shoot me in the face with a rifle. Tech sales. Nevertheless, stag parties are positioned at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of desirable social occasions. They are the lowest rung on the ladder of laddishness. Do you like that? Alliteration there. Would you consider yourself a lad, Kieran?
No.
No?
No, I'm not a lad.
You're more of a lad than me, but you're definitely not a lad.
No, I'm not a lad. I'm a lad.
You're a lad. I'm a little gaily. I'm just a baby. You know that meme? I'm just a baby. That's me. I'm an androgynous baby. Boy, nevertheless, on stag parties, beneath that totem pole or metaphorical rung of ladder or whatever, is another subterranean level of iniquity, and that is the English stag-do. The inventors of the pig-headed, fist-pumping, rosy-cheeked, tiny-cocked, phlegmy cough on society that is the socially acceptable loutish behaviour that comes in the name of, it's just a stag. Do you know what I mean? The stag culture in the UK, an army of belching, farting, football-supporting imbeciles with shriveled cocks and ale breath, taking to the streets of terrestrial towns on a Saturday night in the name of Henry's last hurrah. I fucking love Newcastle. Hurricane Milton. Let's be honest. People were a bit disappointed that it didn't reach the heights it could have. In terms of a complete segue. There was an air of, if you'll allow the pun, there was an air of disappointment on Saturday. People are like, yeah, I was on TikTok last night. Didn't really get this. Didn't get the shit that I wanted. It didn't quite reach historic levels of natural disaster. There weren't enough fatalities. It's the roast of stag days. Let's go.
So, a friend of mine was supposed to get married, and it came to like 8 weeks before the wedding, and her groom-to-be went to Liverpool for his stag, and her father didn't exactly like who she was marrying and never hid it. So he actually paid for her husband-to-be to sleep with a hooker. And then took total enjoyment out of telling his daughter what her groom-to-be had got up to. Needless to say, the wedding never went ahead. He's currently in Australia, and now she's with another fella and they have a child. But I suppose, look, at least we had our weekend in Galway, and I suppose he had his stag and a happy ending.
No. You know the way with the Special Olympics? They say everyone's a winner. This is like the opposite of the special. Everyone's a loser in this situation. The dad, first and foremost, let's just go straight to the dad. The dad is willing to sacrifice his daughter's happiness in order to preserve some perverse sense of ownership over her future. He is absolutely the villain in this situation. Okay? Moving on. The groom is not without blame as well. As if this sex worker was just foisted upon him. As if he was just sitting there with a cylindrical prong jutting out of his body and she reversed into it. Do you know what? You cheated on your wife, Graham. You've had sex with her. This is horrendous. That poor bride is surrounded by... What's that that poet? There's a famous poem and it's like diamonds around my childhood. It's a gorgeous poem. Is it Patrick Mahon, Philip Larkin? And it basically, I think, if I remember correctly, the metaphor is that, you know, the diamonds, like the burial diamonds, like diamonds around my childhood. And he's talking about these key figures of his childhood, you know? Like diamonds around this woman's life. She's surrounded by bastards, basically. The dad, imagine handing cash out, hand over fist. Is that the phrase? But like meeting somebody down the lane, how's it going? Hey baby, that's my. Hey baby, you back again, Mark? Twice in one day. Brilliant. Why is she Spanish? Pop culture made me think that way. But like, you know, imagine going down and soliciting the services of.
How are you getting on? Are you the sex person?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, do you not see the sign on my back now?
Would you, any chance, how much is it?
Well, how much is what? Like, you have to be, there's options here. Do you know what I mean? There's packages. Which would you prefer? What? It's like Domino's meal deal. Do you know what I mean? Would you like, we're always going to get you, by the way. You're still always going to spend it more than you think. But like, what would you like?
Well, it's actually from my son-in-law.
Brilliant. Why? Is he nervous? Is he too shy to come here himself? No, he doesn't actually. He's not actually aware that this is going to happen. This is completely insane. I'm so sorry for her loss, both past and ultimately future, because that father is a behemoth of an ignorant moron. On we go.
Hi, Mark. Just a quick one. For my stag do, I don't know why I'm acting embarrassed. I'm absolutely not embarrassed by this. I went to a Doctor Who convention. Me and some mates went to London and we did a Doctor Who themed pub crawl and then went to a Doctor Who convention. And I don't think in the history of stag-do's has any fiancé had the zero worries about other girls and what I might get up to as mine had going away on that trip.
Okay, this is a brilliant one, and it came in from a guy called Ben Vert. You might remember his voice from previous podcasts. I've also subsequently learned that Ben is a comedian himself. So we should thank Ben for his brilliant contributions to the show. He does stand up around Ireland, I gather. So check him out on Instagram, BenVerth. He must live in Ireland, assuming Scottish. Thank you, Ben. Now let me remove the surgical gloves, because let's be honest, the Doctor Who convention for your stag, I think, is very wholesome, right? Although I will say this, you'd probably see more questionable haircuts and women named Crystal at a comic book convention than you would an actual strip club. I don't know if you'd be safe there in terms of, like, from what I've seen on the internet, gamers and comic book people are sex mad. They are complete. The women at Doctor Who conventions probably couldn't be trusted to be left alone with like a baguette. You can't. Or a cucumber. Any sort of... I just think Kieran hates this. Any sort of like extreme fandom brings... There is always an undercurrent like of sex. Like the line between cosplaying and sexual fantasy is thin.
Is it?
It has to be. I think if you're a fan of something to the extent that you want to congregate with other fans of said thing and dress up and don a wardrobe, there's a horniness there. It's not a depravity, by the way. It's just an undercurrent of desire for fictional. I went to Comic-Con once, by the way, in the RDS, and I was chatting to this woman, and she had just paid, I shit you not, €680 for a massive size ET finger. And I was like, "Oh, you a big fan of ET?" And she was like, "What's ET?" I was like, "Well, what are you going to do with that finger? Clean up on aisle 3? No. Okay, this one is absolutely deranged. And it's not really the usual sort of stag roast type thing, but I want to hear your thoughts on this, because for me, it's absolutely bananas, and I think we might end up doing a full episode on people like this or worst examples of behaviour like this. I'm going to play it for you. Let me know what you think. Send me a DM on Instagram at Mehigan Mark. And of course, if you've been enjoying the show, let me know what you thought about it at Mehigan Mark on Instagram. Thanks so much.
So it's my now husband's stags, and they had set their weekend and were going away. A friend of his was going out with a girl at a time. She told his friend that it was a really inconvenient weekend for her because everyone she knew she was away and that she would be on her own for the entire weekend. So that was the first red flag. Then on the first night of the stags, they were walking across a really bumpy cobblestone road. There was a whole group of them. And they were just helping some girls cross the road because, heels, cobblestones, they don't mix. And so he was literally, this friend was on the other side of the footpath, or the road on the footpath, and got a message to say who or why he was holding a girl crossing the road, or who she was. He sent a quick reply with an explanation of what had happened, even though I would have personally ignored it, and carried on about the night. Later, after the fact, when he asked how she knew, she said that her friend had passed and had seen them and texted her, and then she texted him. But what actually transpired was she was out in the friend's car, driving around, so basically monitoring him and following him for the night out on the stags. So needless to say, my husband and I got married, and them two ended up getting married as well. So yeah, still a very big red flag. I still have trouble processing that as a girl on behalf of all other girls.
That is a bigger red flag than Joseph Stalin's birthday party draping. Do you know that? A wallpaper in the Joseph Stalin sex chamber. Oh my God, the insanity. What do you think of that?
Madness.
with these things, you always have to ask yourself, and by the way, I'm not trying to ridicule anyone for being possessive or jealous. Well, you have a responsibility to yourself to sort that shit out, because usually it's just, it's covering up fear and deep insecurities, which we're all aware of. Again, if you notice those traits in yourself, you have to take the appropriate action to address them in order to make life easier for yourself, but also, most importantly, the ones that you love in your life. That level of possessiveness, to the extent that you're getting into your friend's car and trailing your fiance on the stag, or like, that is just loons. You are a loon. You're a loon. I mean, that's me showing my understanding side. I think it's crazy behaviour. I think surely once you get engaged, it's done. Like, it's over. You've got the commitment. What else could you want? Helping someone across the road. Was he though? Let's just play devil's advocate for a second. What was really going on? No, we're not. We're on his side. Completely insane. Let me know if you think a roast of possessive or like jealous freaks could be good in a, mature, sophisticated kind of way. On we go.
Hi Mark. So my husband was the best man for his best friend's wedding. He organised a stag but was under strict orders to not organise a stripper. But unbeknownst to him, the groom's college friends decided to organise a stripper. They were in the pub one of the nights of the stag, and the barman told them that there was soup and sandwiches downstairs for them. And when all the guys went downstairs, it turned out to be a surprise stripper. So the stripper proceeded to completely strip off. She put her thong in the groom's pint and made him drink the pint. Vile, absolutely vile. She proceeded then to take off his belt and whip him with his belt, but she left marks on him with the belt buckle. So needless to say, after the stag, it took a couple of weeks for everyone to be back on talking terms. Bride and the whole groom's family as well. Everybody found out, and there was war. Real fun time. Ever since, I don't think any of the guys in that group, and myself or the bride included, have never been able to take it seriously any time we heard that there's soup and sandwiches anywhere.
Yeah, like, I'm interested that soup and sandwiches was the way of coaxing them. Guys, there's soup and sandwiches downstairs. Ooh, what a stag. What an absolutely banana stag. Do you know what I mean? I told you yesterday that some people were suggesting what to do for my stag. And they're like, oh, would you consider painting and horse riding? Horse riding. Hey, fellas. Hope the jodhpurs are... Hey, lads. Pony on down this Saturday. Hey, dudes. Saddle up, fellas. Into the Wild West for Mehigan send-up. Do you know what I mean? Horse riding. Just 20 lads. Up a mountain. Nevertheless... soup and sandwiches with an aggressive stripper. Yeah, that's the game. I mean, I love the way you're complaining. Oh, yeah, well, if there's one thing we said to the stripper was don't put your knickers in a pint. Do you know what I mean? That is not what we expected. We wanted a simple striptease. I think it's, from a lot of the contributions in the show, people have, they set standards extraordinarily high to strippers. The pressure on strippers to sort of fulfill their duties in a very, be a stripper, right? Be a stripper. Come to my house. Here's the address. Be subjected to our lavish, lavish loveliness. Don't do anything, don't veer off the path. Just get breasts, fine. Breasts, bum, buttocks, all the rest, great. Don't do anything that I wouldn't do. Taking your knickers off, putting them in a pint glass and forcing the stag to drink it. No, that is not. 2 Smithwicks, please, barkeep. Guys, welcome back to the Weekly Roast. I hope you're enjoying this episode. It's an interesting one because there's lots of funny stuff, but there's also a mixture of like genuinely depressing and depraved amorality displayed by people's closest, nearest and dearest. So I don't want to act like I'm holier than thou and come across sanctimonious because, I do have a past, and my past is more checkered than the suit of a 22-year-old pervert at the Galway races. Guys, it's... the roast of stag-do's. Let's continue. Kieran's got a wry grin on his face and we love to see it. Maybe he's thirsty.
This only happened about 3 weeks ago, so there's been no actual conclusion to it just yet, but we were on a bottomless recycle cruise and the groom just got absolutely blasted to the point where we literally had to kind of half carry, half drag him back to the Airbnb. And when people kind of get really, really drunk, they kind of get a bit emotional sometimes and start saying shit. Anyway, he started crying, and we were all kind of like, what the fuck's going on here? And he basically admitted to cheating on the bride with the bride's sister, The bride's dad was also on the stag, so he obviously forgot that the bride's dad was there, and the dad lost the fucking plot. Basically jumped on him, tried to fucking strangle him to death. We had to grab and just remove the bride's dad from him so that he didn't die, obviously. The dad immediately booked a flight home, and so far, the only update I can give you is that the groom has been kicked out of the house. The bride's sister has been kicked out of the family home because she is still living at home, so she's currently just kind of couch surfing. And yeah, the wedding is actually meant to be in 2 weeks. So yeah, it's just an absolute shit show. And if there's any updates within the next couple of days, I will let you know.
God, I love the Nigerian accent. So sultry. Like, this is harrowing. Like, where to start? I'm shocked. I'm horrified. Sympathy for the bride. My sympathies to the bride. What happens in that situation? A family unit collapses and the future collapses. Like, that is unthinkable. I can't make fun of it because it's just so fucking unbelievably bad for the bride in question. How does that stuff even happen? How, like, do you know what? I've always wondered this about, okay, I've wondered about stuff like this, but also even more nefarious things, which we don't even need to get into. But you know, like really, really the worst form of crime. And you hear about like rings being exposed. How does it happen that it comes up in conversation? Jesus, are you into this? Ergo, what I'm saying is, how would it even come into conversation with the bride's sister? Jesus, how are you getting on? Did you want to come over and have sex with me tonight? Do you know, like, how does that even come into conversation? It's deranged. And the dad did what the dad could. Like, I mean, I don't blame the dad for reacting like that. Guys, that's made me sad, that one. When we get back to strippers?
The stripper on my stag got fired on the spot for being overly aggressive and
Sorry, just really quickly. I love the way you've said on the spot. As if there was another way of firing the stripper. You were hardly going to email her notice 2 weeks. This is a written warning. Crystal, listen, this is a written warning from HR. There's been a verbal warning. Remember when you were motorboating Cian? That was the verbal warning, but you couldn't hear him because your breasts were engulfing his face. So there was the verbal warning. Now here's the written warning sent via WhatsApp at 5 a.m. in the way of "Where's you?" and then there'll be the full P45 soon enough. On we go.
The stripper on my stag got fired on the spot for being overly aggressive and physically abusive. While the lads cheered on in my funny dance, she ripped my t-shirt, broke the skin and left me with bruises. And my soon-to-be wife discovered there was something off when she saw a picture of me wearing a big strip club t-shirt, because they had to give me one to replace it, and I was cut out. Yeah, there you go.
Coming home from, your stag do with the t-shirt on from the strip club that you visited is the adult equivalent of pissing your pants on the school tour and having to wear your primary school teacher's anorak home on the school bus, do you know what I mean, as a pair of pants, while everybody laughs at you and calls you PP Mark.
My husband wore my stocking, suspenders and thong under his jeans because he knew he was going to be stripped. They all got a little bit of a shock when they stripped him. That was 37 years ago, and his friends still talk about the laugh they had. And so do we.
I love that. I absolutely love that one. Now, I will say this. That would probably be my excuse as well. Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. Oh, you got me. I got you guys. Do you know what I mean? Officer? No, you see, I knew you were going to pull me over, officer. That's why I put on there. And I thought it was a joke. It's a practical. You've all got. No. This is a total miss. The joke's on you guys. That's why I'm wearing the thong. And the pictures from a few weeks, it's all forming part of the joke. And the time someone saw me in Sainsbury, it's all part of the gag. The knee-high leather boots under the suit pants to the Galway races. This is the gag. Apparently 17% of men wear thongs these days. How fucking high is that?
Quite high.
70%.
Where'd you see that?
Oh, I just made it up literally 19 seconds ago. So
Oh.
yeah, on we go.
There was a lad came in to me, right, and there's 16 lads are doing now, right, in Benidorm, right, you chain a midget to the groom for the whole evening, and he has to go to the toilet with the groom, etc., etc. The midget was attached to the groom for like 12 hours or something, and I was just like, why in the fuck would you do that?
I completely agree. Kieran, as someone who's used to walking around with something tiny permanently attached to his body, brilliant. Cock comedy, nothing better. No finer form of funny. Yeah, I think it's inhumane. Do you know what I find amazing is like these people are like accountants, probably doctors and lawyers and, you know, aircraft leasing, engineers. These are legitimate members of society, and then they go off and behave like that, you know? It seems to be quite a common trend. I don't really... Where did it come from? And I've seen pictures of people enlisting the help of these, of the little people, but then like getting them to dress like Oompa Loompas and stuff. It's shocking. Okay, guys. Ultimately, as always, there's no escape. There's no true escape with the weekly roast. This version of it anyway, my friends. Oh, raise your eyebrow and ponder what might be coming next. But in this iteration of the weekly roast, there is no escaping some of the more sordid aspects of life. Guys, there's a voice note at the end of this section that is probably in my top 5 contenders of the best voice notes we've ever received in the show. For its, as you might say, derangement levels of absurdity. So bear with me. Yeah, just grin and bear this one, okay? I hope you're doing well and I hope you're enjoying the show. It's the return of the elusive and illicit Willy Bum Bum section.
So, friend of a friend was on a stag-do, and so the groom is obviously out, the lads get him fucked, so he blacks out, wakes up the next morning, and the best man at the stag-do is a surgeon. So the groom anyways wakes up the next morning, big gap in his memory, obviously his head's killing him, then he goes, fuck, Jesus, my knob's killing me as well. So he looks down and his fucking foreskin's gone, and so the lads had got him pissed and got the best man to circumcise him at his own stag-do. Needless to say, your man was very pissed off this happened. The bride was raging as well, so your man got uninvited from being best man. They don't speak to each other at all for the sake of a circumcision gag.
Like, bit over the top, bit off the top, please. This is totally absurd. Kieran?
Forget uninvited. Is that not malpractice?
That is malpractice. That's I'm suing you.
What did he... Oh, let me just get the hand sanitizer and...
Also, where's the skin? Green bin, like?
Where's the scalpel?
Which bin? As a matter of interest, which bin does that go in? Foreskin. Do you know what I mean? Also, like, when you're bringing a scalpel to a stag for the sake of a gag, that's when you've gone too far. When you're approaching people in the local synagogue, right? In the car park of your local synagogue, asking for advice on circumcision. Brilliant circumcision. It's time to do something different. Swap it for a whoopee cushion. There are different ways to prank people rather than literally interfere with the genitals. Like, this is... It didn't happen. It didn't happen. It could not feasibly, possibly, plausibly, did not happen in any universe close or near ours, okay? Nobody received a circumcision on their stag. Would you agree?
I'd like to think so, but
also,
Benidorm.
you wouldn't sleep through that, man. You would not fucking... Oh, look, give him another glass of Chardonnay. We've got a circumcision to perform later. Come on, have you got the key? Who's got the keys to the Airbnb? No one. It's an electric card. You can't put it in the back of your phone. I know, it's a nightmare. Who's got the keys to the Airbnb? We have to go upstairs and circumcise Kieran because he's having a snooze. This is derangement. On we go. Let's go.
Hi, Mark. On the topic of rogue stags and horrendous things that happen at them. It was mid-COVID, so the lads decided that they were going to do a stag in a field, which was bad enough, framing it as a festival, but yeah, the stripper turned up, took a marshmallow flump out of her bag and proceeded to put the whole thing apart from the last inch right inside her vagina. She then got the stag to get on all fours and eat it out.
Brilliant.
Which was pretty horrendous to watch. Yeah, she then got on the PA system and declared that she'd be offering private sessions afterwards. Yeah, absolutely deranged.
Oh, how are you, Mark? Yeah, not too bad, Kieran. Do you want to go and stand in a field whilst watching a woman put confectionery up her front bum? No, thanks. You're grand, mate. Enjoy the upcoming nuptials. Do you know what I mean? This is... Also, without obviously having a vagina, I can't really comment, but... and nor should you, by the way. But... you know, that was like taking just a complete cheap shot to try and appear superior. Without having a vagina, okay, I can't really comment, but I would have thought a flump, wrong sweet choice, like.
What would you go with?
Licorice. All day. Or a bit of Brighton Rock. Used to live in Brighton. Something that actually, I don't know,
That actually what?
Kieran, you're making me blush. You genuinely make, this is, yeah, it's depraved. It's also like not really, do you want to go stand in the field and watch somebody perform lewd acts on themselves with sweets? No, I don't actually. I hope your wife, you know, this has got nothing to do with the SAG. This is literally something that you'd see on Gumtree in like one of those weird German rural areas where, you know, do you remember those, or Craigslist? Do you remember the weird stuff that came out of Germany? Oh, some bizarre stuff coming out of Germany in recent years. Let's just leave that. Let's leave the marshmallows there and keep going. I'm sorry, by the way, dear listener. I do try. I hope you know there is more to me than this, and there's more to this than today. Okay, we will return with some less sordid slop in the very near future. On we go.
Sure wasn't I only organising my brother's stag, and I hadn't done it before. And we were heading over to Barcelona, about 20 of us, and I was organising a stripper, and I hadn't organised it before, but you know, I'd obviously been to them, but didn't know how it worked. And like, did you have to ask them like what they did, or did they just do their own thing, or was there different price packages or whatever? But I kept asking your one, was there any chance of a shift? You know, I just thought it'd be a bit of crack. It's like, is there any chance for a shift? And long story short, but basically she had the whipped cream all over her arse, and my brother was down there, you know, like eating a whipped cream or whatever, and not a word of a lie, your one did a shite. Your one did a shite through her tongue, and basically, as you might guess, she thought I was saying, was there any chance of shit? And like, I don't know. I don't know what she usually does, but yeah, well, that's my story anyway.
Oh my fucking God. Just like, what are people? What are people? You know, full stop. What are people? Is there any chance of a shift? Like, even that's worse. That's the worst part of this story. Is just going up to the stripper's ear. She's there trying to do a day's work. Any chance of a shift? How was that going to play out, by the way, Niall? How was that going to work? Do you know what I mean? Was she just going to stop stripping and go, do you know what? I'm actually just going to shift Niall here now in front of the lads. What would you get from that? That's what I don't understand. Any sense of a shift? I love the way he says it as if it's the funniest thing she's ever going to. She won't have heard this before. Any chance of a shift? Okay, guys, look, here we are. Last but not least. As I say, this is probably top 5 I've ever received in the show. Kieran, would you agree?
I agree.
Let's go.
Hi, Mark. Love the podcast. So I work in a hotel bar in a relatively small town, and my brother's friend was getting married, so my brother was one of the stags. And anyway, the night that they were in for the stag, I was meant to be off. So I had been off earlier in the evening, but then I was brought in because things got so busy. There are a number of rooms above the bar that people can book out, kind of like, you know, a smallish guest house. And the lads had done that because they knew that, you know, they'd be going wild and they would want to be going home. So they booked rooms. Anyway, I was meant to be off. I was brought in later in the evening, and long story short, the lads upstairs ordered pints up to one of the rooms, which generally we wouldn't bring up drinks like ever, but just for that night in particular, we just said we would. So my brother didn't think I'd be working, obviously. So I had to bring drinks up to the room, and lo and behold, who answers the door of the room but my brother, standing there with his dick out. And let's just say, well, his friends had always nicknamed him King Kong, and he told me the reason he was nicknamed King Kong was because when he gets a few pints into him, he beats his chest, and it's just a thing he does. But let's just say I discovered that that's probably not where the name came from, as he was standing there in front of me. And yeah, so fair awkward anyway.
This is insane. So many questions. Why is your brother answering the door with his dick out? What's he doing in the room with the lads so that his dick is out? Why, if he's in a room with a bunch of lads, is he going, right lads, anyone fancy a pint, okay? I'm just going to answer the door now with my penis out. Especially if there's a risk of the sister bringing up the pints. Secondly, my dear caller, why is the essence of this story about the size of your brother's dick? Like, your only takeaway from this is that, yeah, my brother has a big enough dick by King Kong. By the way, who famously, nobody knows how big King Kong's dick is. That's not a thing. Is this like, am I on a... I've never heard anything about King... What the hell is wrong with some people? I thought my brother's nickname was King Kong because he used to beat his chest in the pub after a few pints. He sounds like an intelligent fella. I wouldn't mind a chat with him. I wouldn't mind a meeting of the minds with old Keith. Do you know what I mean? A man, a literal rural Tarzan who hammers his fists across his fucking chest, his poitrine, whenever he's had a few pintines, as they say. This is utterly bananas. He answers the door with his dick out. Good stuff. End of story. Slam the door. Close the door. On that, physically and figuratively, close the door. Never discuss, never think, never address it again. Don't walk away and go, that's why he's called King Kong. Because he's got a fucking huge piece. Guys, I'm going for a nap. Good luck. Thank you so much for listening to the Weekly Roast. Hugely appreciate it, guys. If you enjoyed the show, send me a little DM on Instagram at Mehigan Mark. Really, really means a lot whenever I hear from you. If you have any... do you know what you could do, guys? Could you please subscribe to the podcast? It makes a huge difference. So if you could subscribe and rate it wherever you listen to your podcast and leave like a little review, that makes an enormous difference. It obviously helps us get more sponsors on board and helps the show stay alive. So if you enjoy the show, please share it with a friend, tell them about the Weekly Roast, or shoot me a message on Instagram at Mehigan Mark. I hugely appreciate it, guys. There is the beginnings of a new project happening, which I genuinely mean it from the bottom of my heart. I'm so excited. It's going to be coming very soon. It's not a piss take. I'm not alluding to something. I know lots of you will be very interested in this, and you know, at the end of the day, I do want to create stuff that isn't just Willy Willy Bum Bum section. So I look forward to telling you more about it and having you on board, guys. Have a good week. Take a second, take 60 seconds, if you can, take 60 seconds to yourself today. Take 10 deep breaths. And just remember, it'll be okay. It will be. Nevertheless, mind yourselves. Speak to you very soon.